Welcome to another episode of Exposed. Exposed is a youth talk show on Mohawk TV. The purpose of the show is to expose the issues that matter to Kahnawake youth and to provoke thought and discussion on those issues. I'm one of your panelists, Jessica Deer. And on this week's episode, we're discussing the importance of arts, and we have three young local artists with us in studio, or with me in studio. So the first one is Walter Scott. Thanks for joining. Adam Morris and Meg White. Thanks for coming on the show. So we'll start with you, Walter. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Walter Scott. I'm 25 years old, and I'm currently living in Kahnawake again for the summer. I'm working at the Eastern Door, and when I'm not doing those two things, I'm creating visual art.
Would you be able to elaborate more? Like, what type of stuff have you done in the past, or?
The kind of art that I make is, well, I think one of my main passions has always been drawing since I was really young, and doodling on placemats and basically just never paying attention in school. And so one of the main things that I've been doing besides creating personal work for myself is in Montreal. I've been living there for the past couple of years, and I've been creating posters for punk shows and various other music shows in Montreal, which I got through my friend who's a music promoter for punk shows and more mainstream. So it gives me a chance to take drawings that I make by myself when I'm not thinking, or when I'm having some time to myself to draw, or if I'm at a diner and I'm drawing on a placemat. And I can take all this raw material and I could turn it into something that I can get paid for by scanning them in Photoshop, and then sort of collaging some really crazy stuff. And the people that I've made posters for seem to really like it, and I often get asked a few times a month to make posters for shows in people's basements, or even La Sala Rosa in Montreal. So I've got all different kinds of people that like me to make posters for across the gamut, from really, really, really punk to really, really legit. So I'm able to do what I like to do.
In January 2010, you did a residency at I don't know how to say it.
The Banff Center.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sorry, the what though? What was it? The
Banff.
The Banff Center.
The Banff, okay.
BANFF.
Yeah, BANFF.
Those that are wondering, what on earth is she trying to say?
Well, the Banff Center is in Banff, Alberta. It's an art center. Well, it's funny because it's a tourist town, it's a ski town, but then on the top of a mountain they have a multidisciplinary art center where they have lectures and they have workshops and guest speakers and curators and artists, and they have a residency program for young Aboriginal artists. Well, actually, you could be any age. So I took a residency called Towards Language, and it was an Aboriginal residency where Aboriginal artists were invited to come and explore and make art about how language affects us in our lives and in our daily practice. So the time I was there, I spent a lot of time in the printmaking studio, and I don't know if you're aware of any types of printmaking, but I was working primarily in screen printing, which is basically taking large screens and pushing ink through a screen to create a work of art that's composed of various layers of ink. And it's a way that commercial poster making is done primarily. And so really what I was doing was taking my punk sort of roots of poster making, and I brought those skills to the Banff Center to create some fine art prints that were, sort of divorced from music and a bit more personal. And I found ways to create images and symbols and sort of map out emotional responses in my body into my own sort of language. And so my prints became a sort of visual lexicon, a kind of like library of symbols that reflected the time that I had, the time that I spent in the mountains in Banff. And so really what I was doing is when I was feeling something in my body, I would, kind of spell it out in like an alphabet, but it was a bit more gestural. It wasn't like literally like symbols. It ended up becoming a series of prints that were abstract, but to me they spoke a language. And so that was my way of doing the residency. And it's actually a very spiritual place, and a lot of the participants that I was in the residency with, we all became very close, and we all had like a lot of strange coincidences happen. And I guess because we're all Native people, right? So we all sort of were able to appreciate when things like that happened as something like a sign that like things were going well. Like in one print I was making a big blue face. I had screen printed like the first layer on my print was a blue face, and I had put it up in my studio, and I was looking at it, and then I walked over to my friend's studio, and she had put blue paint all over her face, and she was making a marking on a piece of paper with her face. And so like we both had this really strange moment of like, wow, that's weird, but we also appreciated it at the same time. So I think residencies are important for things like that, especially for Aboriginal people to come together and sort of create and share stories.
And I don't know if you two are familiar with the Deoyux program. It started in 1999, and it was like a summer thing funded by Brighter Futures. And the purpose of it was to provide teens like with an outlet to tell their stories and experiences, to help them become critical of movies. And you were involved with that when you were younger.
Yeah, it was Deoyux. It was 1999. I forget how old I was.
That year.
Yeah, I forget how old I was. I guess I was 15. And it came at a time when I guess I really was having difficulty really finding my place. And at 15, I think that's how everyone feels. And Deoyux, it was a drop-in center where you were basically given sort of free rein to take a camera and express yourself. And I feel like it came at a time for me that it was very fortunate, because it was a place where I can go and feel safe and be myself and express like my voice, and to be able to feel like my voice was relevant and I had a way to give back to the community. And I mean, it was a lot of running around with a video camera and like, yelling and screaming and being crazy. And it doesn't at that time really seem like anything profound, but looking back, it was actually very formative for me to be able to express who I am today.
Unfortunately, I think the summer of 2002 was the last time they had it like running for whatever reason. And just like, I find it's unfortunate when programs like that just, I guess, don't get as established in the community as maybe people want them to be, and then there's no...
Yeah, well, they're successful, and then they're really popular, but they just kind of fizzle out because of lack of drive. But it's like, it's definitely a good idea, and it should happen again. Mm-hmm. That happens a lot.
And Adam, you are going to school for theater.
Yes.
At Bishop's University.
Yes, that's right. I just finished my first year. I'm a theater major and a music minor, and I guess I've got 2 more years there. And it's really great. I'm really happy that I ended up at Bishop's and doing like a music minor as well as a drama major, because the two go hand in hand for me. I feel like the reason I do acting has a lot to do with music, singing, and dancing. It's like half the magic, you know. The whole experience is just great. So really, the two programs are just complementing each other for me, and I'm really glad I'm there.
So, we have to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back after the break, and we'll be discussing more about your interests, and of course we didn't forget about Megan over there, but we'll be back